In front of you and me, this is Belarus, the world's largest submarine at the moment. It's called the Russian weapon of the end. The main weapon is a nuclear torpedo, Poseidon. It's thought to be capable of generating enough powerful tsunamis. It's full of radiation to destroy. It's a completely coastal city, so its appearance has raised concerns for the world. The Western Office. Especially in November 2023, Russian President Vladimir Putin has canceled ratification of the Nuclear Test Ban Treaty Comprehensive. However, is what the Russians claim to be true, that Belgorod? Is it a super weapon that will bring about the end of the world, or is this just the media trick of the Golden Mask to threaten their enemies? It's all going to be revealed in today's video. Handmade jewelry brand for men join the City team. Subscribe to the channel as well as support your products. Helios offers unique crafts and designed and engineered by Vietnamese artisans with the desire to bring Vietnamese products reach out to the world, according to Global Firepower. Russian Navy by the end of February 2024, he had in his fleet the number of ships, the world's largest underground island, for a total of 65 pieces. Even so, unfortunately for them is quite a lot of these are old, and there are those from the Soviet masters that are over 30 years old. Even over 40 years old, therefore, with the aim of modernizing its submarine force, the Soviet Union launched the Belgorod-class nuclear submarine. In July of the year 992, after 30 years of research and development, it's based on ship class, powered by nuclear power. Oscar Belgorod originally had a design orientation to become a submarine called a navigator to threaten U.S. aircraft carrier strike groups. At the same time, Belgorod and its sisters. It is expected to be equipped with 24 P-class anti-ship missiles, 700 Granite. They have a special feature. You can fire them all at the same time, in which the missile leads will send data back to the target for the remaining 23. And if this missile is intercepted, the next ones will replace it. Thanks there. Only a Belgorod fleet has the power to attack many enemy fleets at the same time. That's what I promised. But in the year 997, Ministry of Defense of the Russian Federation, I had to stop this program. In the context, the country is in a difficult financial situation, post-showbiz period even, so they're still hoping to finish the construction, and always ready for the birth of Belgorod by training the soldiers of the crew. However, financial problems proved more complicated than expected. That's 3/4 of the submarine we're building. For many years lying motionless in the port of CV Rovin, there's 2,000 shipwreck tragedies happening in the South China Sea. That's what made the Russians decide. Continue the Belgorod project. As of Tuesday, December 2004, the hull is almost complete. There's just a lack of motivation, missile silos and equipment, 8 years after the sinking. And then, Belarus's mission began to change. April 2nd, no 19 ships launched, and by July 2022, this submarine is in service with the Russian Navy. And from a normal destroyer, he joined the 29th Submarine Division. It is a special unit. Department of Deep Sea Research of the Russian Ministry of Defense. The change in the mission of Belgorod can be seen in its design. With length 184 meters wide, 18.2 meters. The amount of water for floating and diving is 14,700 respectively, and 24,000 tons. Belgorod has become the largest submarine active in the naval forces of the Russian Federation. As well as all over the world, it's capable of operating at a maximum depth of 520 meters and stay underwater for about 4 months. Thanks to the nuclear reactor installed inside next to it, Belgorod has a top speed of about 32 knots. With unlimited operating range 6, according to the Russian Defense Ministry, it can conduct search and rescue operations. Research and roll Rande strategy with 6 nuclear torpedoes, 2 MBA-9 Poseidon. The very weapon that was installed in the name of the god Cai, the seas and oceans in Greek mythology. This is a factor that we need to analyze. To clarify the purpose of Belgorod tones, the United States is the world's most powerful military superpower. It's also the biggest rival of the Russians. Equity in the hands of advanced systems. It can track any missile launched on Earth, and even the weapons tests. China's ultrasonic gas, 2021. They were also discovered. However, this is very unlikely to happen for Poseidon, especially when people aren't actively looking for it, and get the U.S. Defense Forces in trouble, because there was no warning. To enhance Poseidon's surprise attack capabilities. The Russians claim that they've equipped it with stealth technology. Make it invisible. In front of underwater audio tracking systems deployed by the United States under the ocean. Although it's true that Poseidon makes noise when it works, but its noise level is only comparable to that of ships civilian from there to the United States Navy. It is difficult to distinguish between threats, with all the traffic, or conventional trade on international waterways, some sources of the country. Ares also said that Horse Leopard can automatically reduce the speed to about 3 kilometers per hour as it approaches the target, making it harder to detect and counterattack, even in the last moments. In year 2, not 18, President of Russia, Vladimir Putin. The president's project has been officially announced. It is in the process of development. At the same time, declare Father that it's enough to defeat America's defense systems, a special feature of the Torpedo. This is that it can move automatically, and enhanced performance. Thanks to artificial intelligence, advanced navigation sensor, and obstacle avoidance sonar systems, it's all integrated with the satellite network, global positioning GLONASS of Russia in space. Even if it is as advertised, Poseidon can operate without being detected. For up to 7 months, thanks to the nuclear reactor with fuel that lasts for 25 time, is too short compared to the service life fuel. It's because the torpedo itself needs maintenance. Once every 7 months, according to Russian sources. When the deployment time is over, Poseidon can come back on his own, and there the manned ships will recover and crew carry out maintenance. Get it ready for the next mission. Thanks to nuclear power, the torpedo is capable of 70 knots. That's about 130 kilometers per hour on the surface. According to the Bulletin of the Atomic Scientists, the speed of Poseidon. It can even reach 100 nautical miles per hour, or 180 kilometers per hour, faster than many NATO submarines and torpedoes, with which it can operate at a range of 10,000 kilometers with a depth of more than 1,000 meters each. Poseidon. It's a nuclear warhead with a yield of 2 megatons. Make it easy to understand, that's 133 times more powerful than the Little Boy bomb. 95 Fat Man balls and double. The most powerful weapon in the U.S. nuclear arsenal. B-8, BA plus that. Some reports claim that in case of necessity, ship Belgorod can carry a 100 megaton nuclear warhead. It is twice as destructive as the SA bomb. The most powerful nuclear weapon in human history was detonated in the year 1961. But if this is true, Belgorod will become a terror for the naval bases and the coastal cities of the enemy on November 2010 by Christopher Ford when he was Assistant Secretary of State for International Security. And non-proliferation of nuclear weapons by the White House has expressed concern that who dragged Poseidon could submerge the coastal cities of the United States by the radioactive tsunami. From the signs in the design as well as intelligence obtained 10/4/2022 newspaper report of the U.S. Congressional Research Service has shown that Belgorod and Fire Its God is considered a weapon of retribution, not as a preemptive strike. In theory, if Russia's nuclear capability significantly damaged the first attack of the enemy, Belarus will remain at sea and ready to deploy in combat when ordered. It should be noted that, although I can say Fire God, they have a nuclear deterrent, the most formidable on Earth at the present time, but it can also carry the heads. Regular paragraph, it's the same. In addition to its nuclear mission, submarine Belgorod will undertake a series special activities under the sea and install the necessary equipment such as submarines, small nuclear-powered Rosaric mounted underneath its body. This weapon is considered to be very useful for monitoring tasks or sabotage of critical underwater infrastructure, such as pipe-cutting internet cable or 10 intelligence receiver. At the same time, it seems Belgorod will also act as a vessel, the mother of driverless devices. For this purpose, the ship was redesigned in year 2, No. 17, to replace the rocket bay with a larger storage area for underwater drone. Thus, the original length of Belarus was only 154 meters. It's increased by 30 meters like this. It doesn't stop at carrying. Belgorod is also said to be capable of controlling self-propelled vehicle. The house record is 2 parts per million. This nuclear-powered mini-drone has a length of 6.5 meters, 1 meter in diameter, and a range of about 27 nautical miles. Some estimates show HPSC can operate at a depth of 6,000 meters, but the more modest reports suggest that 2,000 meters is a more likely number. It's equipped a lot. Sonar and precision equipment to conduct base search missions, infrastructure of the enemy. Under the ice in the Arctic. The captain will also be involved with the Black Sea fleets and the Pacific Fleet. Russian Navy, according to Russian sources, HPSC designed for dual-use purposes, just on military duty. I've just done scientific research. It's an American name. To camouflage for underwater intelligence operations. The secret to owning half-seeker ship Belgorod will be enhanced to capture 10 pieces of reconnaissance information that's less of a risk to itself and its crew, to emphasize its importance in the Russian strategic system. Belgorod ship and crew not reporting to Navy commanders, but instead they are directly responsible. Before President Vladimir Putin people at the same time, he is also the commander-in-chief of the armed forces, Russian Federation. This is considered fit for purpose, special operations of the ship. On September 2022, Belgorod. It was captured by a European Space Agency satellite and the United States Geological Survey. I found out it's in the Arctic after a mysterious disappearance. According to European military officials, this submarine is moving to the Kara Sea to conduct the Poseidon test that's raising concerns, although there's no sign that it's going to activate a nuclear warhead. However, 2 months later, CNN's military sources reported that Belgorod has left the testing area in the Arctic Sea and returned to port without testing. Americans believe that the Russians, it may have been technically difficult, and can't fire a copper torpedo. With the water in the Arctic closed ice after winter, Belgorod had to dive under the sea. The question is, where did it go? Or what to do since autumn 2022. By January 2023, the Russian Navy has taken delivery of the nuclear torpedoes, the first Poseidon, and completed some performance tests. When deploying them at different depths by the end of June 2023, Belgorod is thought to have left port Severodvinsk in the Russian Arctic. It happened at the same time as the rebellion of the Wagner Private Military Corporation. But the two events are said to be unrelated. At that time, Belgorod's ship seems to be trying to carry out more experiments at sea for Poseidon torpedoes without notifying the United States. Pay attention to this, because this is a very unusual act. Because in the past, Kremlin and the White House, we will inform each other about strategic weapons tests to prevent misunderstanding of Kiev's intentions, and that leads to the wrong decisions. Some Russian sources later reported that is the nuclear reaction of Poseidon. It works according to its design and shows its operability as well as the safety of the torpedo has been confirmed experiments at sea, with torpedoes possessed that are supposed to be scheduled by the end of summer 2023. But there's very little evidence. It shows that this plan has actually worked, as expected out, even if Belarus and all of its systems work fine. As advertising, there's still a problem to solve. As with the Suna-7 strategy and the T-14 Amarta tank, it's a shortage of numbers. Up to the present time, the Russians only have one submarine, Belgorod, in his fleet, and considering the long development period as well as international sanctions. After waging war with Ukraine, they are hard. Can be made any more in the near future. When you're alone, Belgorod can be easily tracked by satellite. All it has to do is rise out of the water, port fall, and Russia's enemies will know exactly what it does next. Next to Moscow, they are also hesitant to deploy equipment, its latest and best. On the Ukrainian battlefield, in the absence of T-14 Amarta and Su, Year 7 did not fly over the disputed territory. It's the same. We haven't seen it once either. Belgorod to war. Maybe the Russian Defense Ministry doesn't want to take that risk. Give the ship. It's taken almost 35 years to get to the battlefield, and turn every resource they've invested into it. To become cocky, there are also many reasons to believe that Belgorod and Poseidon not as good as the Russians say. First and most important, the ability to create a tsunami of randomness. It's happening both physically and technically. It is said that it is unlikely to happen. Nuclear weapons physicist at the National Laboratory, Lawrence Livermore, 50 megatons can. Yes, it can cause a tsunami and attack the sea with the same energy as the explosion, 650 kilotons. Some other people even think that 100 megatons is not enough to create a tsunami if the explosion happened in the ocean near the shore, but that doesn't mean Poseidon isn't dangerous. According to a former Marine nuclear and electronics technician, U.S. troops, the wave born of the explosion, its offshore still contains some radioactive material enough to make the harbor or a coastal city becomes a neighborhood. It's uninhabitable for about a century. Despite this more modest claim, it doesn't bring much peace of mind to Washington. But there are other reasons to be suspicious about Poseidon's ability to be advertised. This torpedo is huge in size, with length 20 meters and diameter 2 meters. However, that's not enough to fit inside a reactor. Large nuclear, keep it working for a long time. As the designers claim, the structure of Poseidon will need to be able to protect the navigation system and advanced artificial intelligence from nuclear radiation from its own reactor. In theory, this is entirely possible, but it's going to put limits on torpedoes. That makes it less effective than the State Department claims. Russian room the nuclear reactor itself on the Torpedo. It's also an issue worth considering. For those of you who don't know, nuclear reactor works by mechanism, power converter from the process, dispersing atomic nuclei to generate heat. This heat energy then turns into steam. Make moving rewind bin generate power. And in the case of nuclear submarines, it's propulsion. According to Western experts, size of Gula Pradhan is too small to carry regenerative equipment. This complicated process. There are actually many ways to solve this problem, but those ways are a sign. The heat is pretty clear, that even civilian satellites can track, not to mention the military. So the Nangula Poseidon is facing a situation. Nan's dilemma or increase the size to accommodate. It's a traditional nuclear reaction, and make it possible to deploy from submarines become impossible, or use the mitigation process, making it vulnerable to detection and losing its invisibility. If Poseidon possesses the power and the features just like what is celebrated, Russian engineers have to be really good and is now in the hands of superior technology compared to the West. A few minutes ago, national knowledge refers to the research agency of the United States Congress classification JAR's Poseidon. It's an offensive nuclear weapon intended to retaliate. However, there are also some comments with that assessment. These experts think that a horse called the god of the sea. Fast is fast, but it's too slow to become a retaliatory nuclear weapon. Instead, its characteristics are make a better fit for a weapon preemptive strike. They also say that in peaceful conditions. Monitoring of devices like Poseidon, it will be more comfortable. That's because they can only work if you get into a position before you're hunted, where it's going to be close to the shore to create a tsunami big enough, as well as the concentration of radioactive contaminants into the target to avoid being detected by water bubbles. Born of the phenomenon of encroachment, Poseidon needs to dive at great depths. However, in general, the coastal areas are relatively shallow. Therefore, many experts assess the purpose of this torpedo. It's not aimed at ports or a coastal city. It seems to have been proven through use. Belgorod submarines and Poseidon torpedoes. In fact, the Russian Navy. By the end of 2023, there are no reports yet about the sea trials of Poseidon, and there's currently no concrete evidence that Belgorod is patrolling the waters off its coast next to it. The Russian Doomsday Submarine is also revealed more problems when doing less important tasks. It's a mothership for submarines and mid-size unmanned diving equipment. For example, in July, Year 2, No-19 Losarik submarine damaged battery during testing off the north coast. Russian Poles causing a catastrophic accident, in which 14 crew members were killed. At the same time, raises big questions about Losarik's ability to function. From there, you can see. To help the ship, it can actually cause a disaster. The end of the world, as the name suggests. Russians need to really get their hands on it. Instead of just applauding it on the media, traditional in short Belgorod and its power are very similar with some programs. Russia's other supposedly modern weapons, many boastful claims were made, but there's not much evidence to support the truth. So you're the audience. What do you think of Tony Stark and his weapons? It's unique. What is the true purpose of the Poseidon torpedo? Whether it can work, it's like what the Jade claim. Not good. It's all just a paper tiger that gets a mask and built to scare. Threatening the West, don't hesitate. Let us know your opinion. Yours under the comment section.